Let's talk sleepers for each category. Up next on Fantasy Baseball Today Express. Welcome into FBT Express on Thursday, February 27th. I am Frank Stampfl, joined by Chris Towers. We're taking a look at sleepers for each Roto category. You can also use these in head-to-head categories leagues. But Chris, what about batting average? Some names going maybe outside the top 150 that you think can contribute.
Well, Luis Arias is going outside of the top 150, so that's kind of the obvious answer. He's the biggest standout in that category, and frankly is a true batting average specialist because he's not very good at any of the other four categories. So that's why he goes so late, despite being a guy who you can reasonably project to hit 310, and probably the only guy you can say that about. Some other guys to consider would be Jung-Hoo Lee, who I think actually might have some just overall sleeper appeal, but especially in runs, because he's either going to bat third or first for the Giants. He's got really strong contact skills. There might be only like 15 homer power at a best case scenario. Won't run much, but I can see him hitting 280, 285, getting on base a ton and scoring 85 to 90 runs too. And then Jacob Wilson, who put up Luis Arias-esque contact rates in the minors, but with actual pop in his 2024 season. We didn't see much from him when he got to the majors. He got hurt on the first day of the season, or first day after being called up, and wasn't very good when he was healthy. So a long shot there, but he is the 12th highest projected batting average in the ATC projections for what it's worth.
Yep. A couple other names: Yandy Diaz, Alec Boehm, Brendan Donovan, Lourdes Gurriel, and Masataka Yoshida. What about home runs, Chris? Some sleepers in that category.
Yeah, it's harder to find home runs, and RBI because every home run is also a run and RBI. So there's going to be a lot of overlap there. But Jorge Soler is a guy who hit 34 home runs 2 years ago. Should be in a much better ballpark in Los Angeles than he was in San Francisco. So I do think there's still 35 plus homer upside with Jorge Soler. Brandon Lau, also second baseman for the Rays. The fact that he's a second baseman helps make him an special standout in home runs, because I think there was only one guy who had even 25 homers at the position last year. Lau has 30 homer upside if he stays healthy, especially in George M. Steinbrenner Field with that short porch in right field. And then I'll throw out a deep prospect who probably isn't going to get a ton of hype, even when he does get called up, if he doesn't make the opening day roster. Davison De Los Santos for the Marlins was only 21 last year between AA and AAA. He had 40 home runs. You don't see a lot of guys get to 40 homers in the minors. So Davison De Los Santos, definitely a name to know for home runs.
Yep. A couple others: Isak Paredes, Max Muncy, Rhys Hoskins, Michael Tolia, Tyler O'Neill, Matt Wallner, Eugenio Suarez, and Tyler Soderstrom. Runs, a little bit tougher, Chris. Is there anybody who stands out?
I mean, Jurickson Profar, I think, is just undervalued in general, and he figures to lead off for the Braves, at least as long as Ronald Acuna's out. Could hit near the top of the lineup the whole season, and he should be a good source of on-base percentage if what he did last year was at all real. And then Jonathan India is actually my favorite sleeper for runs. He's one of my favorite sleepers in general. The move to Kansas City will lower his home run total, but it's a good hitter's park otherwise. Lots of room for doubles and triples. He's got a good eye at the plate. I think Jonathan India could hit 275. I think he could score 95 runs on this Royals team.
Yep. And with RBI, lots of overlap with home runs here. Is there any other different names from the home run category?
If you lowered the threshold below 150, I think Alex Bregman would make a lot of sense as both runs and RBI, because he's going to get on base a lot. I think he should hit really well in the heart of the Red Sox lineup. Nolan Arenado is probably something close to the best sleeper in the RBI category because he makes a lot of contact. Power seems pretty iffy at this point, but he's going to hit in the heart of that Cardinals lineup, and it won't be a terrible lineup. So I think Nolan Arenado could still drive in 85, 90 runs, even with his diminishing skill set.
I think two Phillies, Nick Castellanos and Alec Boehm. I would bank on at least 80, 85 plus RBI from those two names this upcoming season. Steals, Chris, it feels like the list is endless. Who are some of your favorites?
There's a ton of them here. So I'll go with one, Victor Robles, who I think is just kind of being unfairly overlooked, at least when you compare him to like Bryce Terang, who's like a 10th round pick, and Xavier Edwards, who's like an 11th or 12th round pick. And then Victor Robles often makes it to the 200s in a lot of drafts. His ADP in the month of February is like 195. And his skill set doesn't look that different from those guys. He stole 30 bases in 77 games with the Mariners last year. Actually was on like a 90 run pace and hit 308 as well. So I think Victor Robles could just be good. But if nothing else, he'll steal about a lot of bases and play every day. Jacob Young for the Nationals, another guy who great defender. He'll be in the lineup a lot. Michael Garcia stole a bunch of bases last year. He needs to hit better than he did, but that's another one.
Yep. I think Jake McCarthy makes some sense. Bryson Stott and Andres Jimenez, Cedric Mullins with the Orioles, Tyler Fitzgerald with the Giants, Victor Scott if he earns a job with the St. Louis Cardinals. Let's take a quick break. We'll talk pitching right after this.
Who's in? Who's out? Let the madness begin. The NCAA Men's Basketball Championship Selection Show on CBS and streaming on Paramount Plus.
Welcome back in FBT Express. We're giving out sleepers in each category and looking at wins, Chris. We need pitchers who go deep into starts and pitch on good teams. Who do you think?
On the whole, it's harder to do this exercise for pitchers. Their stats are, one, just more random, and two, more correlated. But Kevin Gausman is someone who, if he's healthy after last year where he stayed healthy, he just dealt with that shoulder injury that I think kind of wrecked things for him. He could have a bounce back season, should win a decent number of games. Christopher Sanchez is another one playing for a very good Phillies team, could pitch deep into games with his ability to record ground balls. And then Reynaldo Lopez is just a pretty good pitcher on a good team.
Yep. I think Jose Barrios won 16 games last year. He does go deep into his starts. And I think two names on the Royals, Seth Lugo and Michael Wacha.
Yeah, Wacha's a good one.
They're not high upside pitchers, but they go deep into their starts. The Royals should be good. The AL Central is still not that great. So, yeah, I could see those working out. Strikeouts, this one's a little bit more fun, Chris. Who are you looking at for strikeouts?
Yeah, the nice thing is the strikeout list is basically just a list of your favorite late round sleepers. So, for me, it's guys like Nick Lodolo and Spencer Arrighetti and Mackenzie Gore, Taj Bradley, Luis Heel. Those guys are going to get a lot of strikeouts as long as they're healthy. And, strikeouts are kind of they're in proximity with upside, I guess is the way to say it. If you get a lot of strikeouts, you've got a chance to be a very good pitcher. So I like making those calls just because if they figure it out, they could just be really good pitchers overall. And Nick Pivetta, he's going to get a bunch of strikeouts, and maybe pitching in San Diego can keep the home run rate down a little bit.
I'll throw Jesus Luzardo in that mix as well, assuming he's healthy and the velocity is back up where it needs to be on a good Phillies team. Hopefully get a lot of strikeouts from him this season. ERA, this one is tough, Chris.
Yeah.
Few names. Drew Rasmussen, he's just good regardless of what role he usually has. And Christopher Sanchez, those are really the only two that made sense to me.
Yeah, otherwise, I think you're looking at high leverage, non-closing relievers. So Cade Smith for the Guardians, Ryan Kerkering for the Phillies, Brian Abreu, Griffin Jacks, Matt Strahm. Anyone who could get 70 innings with elite ratios are going to be a good choice for the ERA and WHIP, especially in like a 15-team league.
And speaking of WHIP, you can actually find a few more pitchers that contribute in this specific category. Guys that don't walk many and maybe also get a lot of fly balls, so they're not giving up a lot of hits. Who makes sense in the WHIP category?
Bowden Francis, I think, makes a lot of sense. Obviously, he did an unbelievable job, literally unbelievable job, keeping hits off the board at the end of last season. Also, Max Scherzer. He had a 115 WHIP last year, which is really good. Especially given how many things went wrong for him. So there are still some signs that Max Scherzer can be a useful fantasy option.
Yep. I think Nestor Cortez, Cody Bradford, Nick Pivetta, and Nathan Eovaldi all make sense as well. Saves, AKA, who are your favorite sleepers at relief pitcher, Chris?
You kind of go one way or the other here. You go with relief pitchers in uncertain situations. So like Liam Hendricks in Boston, AJ Puck in Arizona, or Justin Martinez, and could be Aroldis Chapman in Boston as well. Colorado, Miami, Chicago White Sox. Those are probably bad closers on bad teams, so I don't know how exciting they are. Or you can go with the likely very good setup men behind unproven closers or closers with some questions. So The Phillies guys, Matt Strom and Ryan Kerkering. I would say Griffin Jacks. He's very, very good. And I'll throw Camilo Doval out there. Ryan Walker was very good last year, but only really has about a month and a half, 2 months as a closer under his belt. If he stumbles and Camilo Doval's pitching well, I could very easily see Camilo Doval just going back to being the closer for the Giants. Remember, he was an all-star at one point.
Yep, and I will throw Edwin Uceta in the mix as well, just because P. Fairbanks, he's had trouble staying healthy.
Yep.
Velocity has been down. He's been subject to trade rumors. So I do think there is a chance for Edwin Uceta. For more extensive fantasy baseball coverage, listen to our full-length podcast, Fantasy Baseball Today, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere else podcasts are found. Thanks for listening to Fantasy Baseball Today Express, and we will be back again tomorrow. Bye-bye.